Good afternoon. I am Chef Omar. I am your instructor for Food Preparation 1. And today we are going to go over Chapter 12, Soups. This is our first time that we are going to be doing, I will be doing a video of this chapter. This is something that we're going to do on a continuous basis of every chapter that we go over. This slight overview to accompany the PowerPoints. All right, so make sure you read your chapter. It would be very beneficial to you when you do that as well. So let's go. Well, let's get started. So, like I've said in the past, make sure you read your book. I try not to get the test questions or quiz questions from the PowerPoint itself. And I do that. I get the questions from actually the book because I like to highlight the book to get my questions. Okay, so in chapter 12, it states that a variety of ingredients, seasoning, and garnishings you can use for soups and are versatile, virtually endless, provided you understand the basic procedures for making different kinds of soups. Great soups can be made from the finest and most expensive ingredients or from leftovers from previous evening dinners, service, trimmings from the day's products. Soups are universal, recognized as comfort foods in which seasonal ingredients can shine. Although fresh ingredients are preferable, the wise use of leftover means a daily soup special can be practical menu items. So just like we have our garden, we want to use the freshness that we have, our fresh herbs. So we want to make sure we do that, right? And this chapter applies to the soups and the skills knowledge that we learned in chapter 11 with stocks and sauces. In chapter 11, we are going to discuss making stocks and thickeners and different techniques of different types of soups that are out there. Okay, so we have different types of soups. We have thick soups, we have creamy soups, we have consommes, we have bisque, and we have chowders. We have cold soups. We have soups that are not cooked, cold soups that are cold soups that are not cooked. So let's go ahead and talk about those as well. On page 259, with the actual 6th edition, not the 5th, all right, it states broth are often used as base for familiar soups such as vegetables, chicken noodles, and beef barley. Transforming a broth into a broth-based vegetables, for example, is quite simple. All right. So, like it stated at the beginning, we are going to be using a chicken stock, beef stock. We can use for our chowder. We're going to be using some milk-based soups as well, right? So when making a broth vegetable soup, each vegetable that you actually put in, there's a certain time you're going to put in those ingredients, all right, to finish the soup. Because what happens when you put in those vegetables, it starts to accentuate the flavors, all right? You have the carrots that you put in there. You put your celery and then your onions or whatever type of vegetables that you would like to put in there. But you don't want to cook them too long, because the longer that you cook them, sometimes they're going to become too mushy, and you don't want that to happen. All right. Broth-based soups can be made by simmering ingredients directly to the broth. Are generally not as clear as to plain broth, but appearance is still important. When cutting ingredients for soup, pay very close attention because your cuts need to be uniformed. Because that is why we're cutting a majority of the time with your Batnay, your julienne, your small dice, because we don't want large dice and medium dice and small dice into a soup, because they're all going to cook at different times. So we want to make sure that our cuts are uniformed and that they are consistent in the same shape. Obviously, they're not going to be perfect, but if we're going to cut them in a small dice, they need to be consistent. And same thing with your julienne, all right? So we want to be cut them in a consistent basis, because it states right here that soups pay close attention so that the pieces are uniform, and that they are appealing, because when you put them in the soups, you don't want something too big, something too small, and things of that nature. Okay, and then we're not going to cover the consommes. That'll be more into food prep 2. We're going to talk about thick soups. Okay, with its thick soups, it states that there are two kind of thick soups. We have cream soups and puree soups, right? And in general, cream soups are thickened with a roux or other starch, whereas puree soups rely on a puree of the main ingredient or thickening, right? In certain ways, two soups are very familiar. Some purees are finished with cream or particularly thickened with roux or other starches, right? So you could use arrowroot, cornstarch, things of that nature as well, all right? Some cream soups are made by simmering main ingredients, broccoli per se for cream of broccoli soup and a white stock, or you can use a velouté, which you could just thin it out by using some milk. Also, you could do that with a bechamel as well, like thinning it out. Obviously, because the bechamel is kind of a little thicker, so you want to make it too soup, you're just gonna have to thin it out, right? All cream soups are finished with milk or cream. Very, very important. That is a probably 100% sure. It's going to guarantee you to be a test question. Milk thins soup while adding richness. The same amount of cream added, much more richness without the same thinning effect. Cold milk and cream curdles easily if added directly to a hot or acidic soup. So make sure that your cream is warm or hot prior to adding it to your soup, because like it states right here, if you add cold milk or a cold cream, it'll start to curdle. All right, and you don't want that to happen. All right, and if you look on page 265, it'll give you an example of pureeing with a mill, or you can also do it into a food processor as well. And then we go to page 266. We're going to be talking about puree soups. And puree soups, they are hearty soups made by cooking starchy vegetables or legumes in a stock or broth, then puree all or a portion of them to thicken the soup. All right, so you don't have to use all of it. You could use some of it, but majority of the time you're going to use it all. All right, puree soups are similar to cream, that they are both consistent of the main ingredient that is cooked in a liquid, then pureed. The primary difference is that, unlike cream soups, which are thickened with starch, puree soups generally do not use additional starch to thicken. With starch puree soups generally do not add starch for thickening. Rather, puree soups depend on the starch content of the main ingredient. So what does that mean? For the puree soup, you're using a starchy vegetable, so the starchy vegetable is going to thicken it on its own. You do not need to add any arrowroot, any roux or anything like that, because the vegetable is starchy on its own. The longer you let it cook, the starch from the vegetable will come out and it'll thicken on its own. You just have to give it a little bit of time, all right? Puree soups can be made with dry or fresh beans such as peas, lentils, navy beans, or a number of vegetables including cauliflower, celery root, turnips, and potatoes. Diced potatoes are often used for puree soups because they are a fast thickener of soups, all right? Also, to adjust the consistency of a thick soup, cream and puree soups tend to thicken when made in advance and refrigerated. To dilute a portion being reheated, add hot stock, not cold stock, water or milk to the hot soup as needed. Okay, if you start adding water or broth or milk to it, make sure you start to reseason, because when you start diluting your soup, you're gonna change the consistency of the taste. So you need to make sure you go back in there and season and retaste it. All right. The other soups that we're gonna have, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a bisque. All right, that's what we're gonna do on Wednesday and Thursday for both Food Prep 1 classes. And it traditionally they are shell soups thickened with cooked rice. Today's bisques are prepared by using combination of cream and puree soup procedures. They are generally made with shrimp, lobster, or crawfish that are thickened with a roux instead of rice. Better stability and consistency. Now with that, we're going to use shrimp. All right, we're not going to use lobster, so sorry about that. But make sure that when we do the shrimp bisque that you do not throw the shell away. We have to devein the shrimp, but we are not going to throw the shell away. Right, we need the shell because we're going to get the flavors all out of the shell. So it's really, really important. Bisques are enriched with cream. Follow the procedures with cream soups. Can be finished with butter for additional richness. The garnish should be diced flesh from the appropriate shellfish. So we could just throw a little bit of the shellfish just to accentuate the actual part of the soup, right? And then to follow up with the last part, it's the clam chowder. Chowders are hearty soups with chunks of main ingredients, including diced potatoes, and it's very, very noticeable with Manhattan clam chowder, which contains milk and cream. They are thin chowder. Most chowders are thickened with roux. The procedures makes some chowder similar to those of making cream soup, except chowders are not pureed and strained before cream is added. All right, and then we go into cold soups. Make sure you go over the cold soups on page 270, and then there's two types of cold soups. You have, and it states here on the bottom of page 270, and it says regardless there are two types divided. They're into two categories: cold soups that are required cooking and those that do not. Okay, and it'll state which ones they are, and it's on page 270, cooked cold soups, and it states uncooked cold soups. All right, and then we also have to look at the safety alerts for the uncooked cold soups and the cooked cold soups as well. The TCS. All right, we need to know what those are. All right, so very interesting chapter. We're gonna have a lot to do this week, so make sure you look on Moodle for if there's any quizzes. But we're gonna have some homework. Make sure you get down your recipes, you write them down. I will let you know if we're gonna cut anything in half. If you're not sure what the recipes are going to be, make sure you get with Robert to make sure that your recipes are correct prior to coming into class. It is imperative that those are correct. All right, so if you have any questions, please come see me. We will talk about more in class. Hopefully this video does help you, but that does not neglect you from reading your chapter, because it is important that you understand by reading your chapter and conversing with your classmates about what you're learning from what we're going over in class, right? Make sure that we're also looking at our plants as well. Each and everybody, I noticed we haven't been going over there because we've been really busy, but let's get it together this week. Let's have a great week, and hope we get to see everybody this week. All right, y'all have a great one. Y'all take care, and we're going to continue doing this. All right, have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.